Chair, you are live.
Thank you. Welcome, everybody, to this meeting. And prior to our call to order, I'd like to read the Pembroke Land Acknowledgement Statement. As we gather today, I would respectfully acknowledge on behalf of the Council and the community that the City of Pembroke resides on the unceded traditional territory of the Algonquin people. We thank the generations of people who have taken care of this land for thousands of years. It is with this statement that we honor and respect the Algonquins on whose land we reside. I'll now call the meeting to order. Can I ask for approval of the agenda? So Marcel, Ian, all in favor? Thank you. Minutes of April the 29th having been circulated, move to a seconder. Are there any errors or omissions to the minutes? Seeing none, all in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. Any disclosure of pecuniary interest or general nature thereof? Seeing none, we'll move on to new business. The first one is B224, 2024, sorry, 919 Cedar Lane, owned by John Dagenet. Owen, can we hear from you, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The applicant, John Dagenet, has submitted a site plan to sever his existing lot at 919 Cedar Lane to create a new separate lot for a future single detached dwelling. The property is currently zoned residential type 1, flood fringe, and flood plain by the zoning bylaw. The R1 portion of the zoning permits the use of single detached dwelling. The flood fringe marker requires that no lower level openings are permitted below the elevation point of 114.2 meters. And the flood plain zoning generally prohibits any development with a small list of exceptions. A further section of the zoning bylaw regarding special separation distances from water bodies and water courses requires that no building or structure, including any part of a sewage disposal system, shall be located less than 15 meters from the high water mark. On Mr. Dagenet's submitted site plan, using a draft reference plan completed by an Ontario land surveyor as its base, the proposed single detached dwelling is shown as being solely in the R1 portion of the property, outside of both the floodplain zone as well as the being above the flood fringe marker, as well as exceeding the 15-meter setback requirement from the high water mark. As such, the site plan meets all of the aforementioned basic zoning requirements. The proposed severed lot, which would maintain the civic address of 919 Cedar Lane, would have a frontage of approximately 60 feet and a regular depth of approximately 300.56 feet for an approximate lot area of 18,033.6 square feet. The proposed severed lot would maintain the zoning, and in addition to the above note, the aforementioned general zoning requirements, this lot would meet and exceed all required provisions for a single detached dwelling in an R1 zone, including minimums for lot area, lot frontage, front yard setback, rear yard setback, interior side yard setback, lot depth, landscaped open space, and minimum dwelling unit area. The proposed retained lot, which would have an address of 915 Cedar Lane, would have a frontage of approximately 119.95 feet and a regular depth of approximately 203.84 feet for an approximate lot area of 24,450.61 square feet. The proposed retained lot would also maintain its zoning, and it would also meet and exceed all applicable zoning requirements and provisions for an R1 lot. Currently, 2 cabins exist on the proposed retained lot. No new development is proposed for this lot at this time. Regarding parking, the zoning bylaw requires 2 spaces per dwelling unit for single detached dwellings. Based on the front yard setback, ample existing driving space would exist on the proposed severed lot to meet and exceed parking requirements. Parking requirements for the retained lot would be dealt with upon receiving an application for any future development. The property is designated residential under the city's official plan. According to the official plan, the city shall encourage all forms of residential intensification that creates a potential supply of new housing units. This shall be encouraged in built-up areas of the city where there is sufficient existing or planned infrastructure to accommodate such development. As the proposed severance will allow for a new lot to be created for future residential development within an already built up area with existing partial servicing, this application meets this directive in the official plan. The official plan further states that all residential development shall be adequately serviced with municipal water and sewer services. Municipal water services are currently available on Cedar Lane. Any future development would be subject to a building permit, the application process for which would require municipal water servicing be completed to the property. However, municipal sanitary sewer services are not available on Cedar Lane. As such, an individual septic system would be required for the proposed single detached dwelling on the proposed severed lot. This septic system would be addressed in the building permit process to ensure that no adverse impacts on the environment occur. The property is located 0.13 kilometers from Pembroke Street East, the city's designated arterial road by the official plan. This provides for strong vehicular transportation links throughout the city via its collector roads. And finally, regarding the provincial policy statement, the proposed future single detached dwelling would contribute to a healthy, livable, and safe community by promoting efficient land use patterns, which will sustain the financial well-being of the city of Pembroke over the long term. The proposed severance will also accommodate an appropriate range and mix of residential properties and promote residential intensification. And the proposed severance is in keeping with land use patterns that include an efficient use of land and infrastructure, such as municipal water services. And therefore, this application meets the intent of the official policy statement. The current provincial policy statement. A 5% parkland dedication fee would be required to be paid for the proposed severed lot as per the Planning Act. The Planning Department is recommending that the committee approve, subject to conditions, the application for consent to sever for 919 Cedar Lane.
Thank you, Owen. Were any submissions received regarding this application, Owen?
No inquiries nor submissions were received.
See, Mr. Dagenais is there. John, would you like to comment regarding the application or?
The 5% thing. I guess the only thing we didn't discuss was the 5% parkland fee, like you had mentioned it, but yes. We had there was a house on that lot we tore down, got a permit to tear it down, but that not because there was a house on the land.
Through you, Mr. Chair, as we're creating a brand new lot, the parkland dedication would still apply.
Right.
Yeah.
That's fine. I just wanted to table that and see.
Anyone else wanting to speak to that, to the application? If not, can we have a motion, please?
Question.
Yes.
If my hazy memory allows me, I remember some years ago there was some issue with water and pressure down in that area, if I'm not mistaken. Has that been rectified? I thought there was low peak pressure for water. There was an individual had complained some years ago. Perhaps that's been rectified. I'm just curious as to that could be answered or not.
Through you, Mr. Chair, the operations department, the application was circulated to them, and they had no objections or concerns regarding the servicing.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Yes.
Yeah, I have a question with regards to the septic tank. I know that the submitted site plan is within outside the 15 meters from the high water mark. But since the septic tank is below ground, how does that work? It's just a technical question, really.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Unfortunately, the chief building official isn't present tonight. I'd normally direct that question back to him. I can get that information for you, though, after the meeting.
He's seen the application?
He hasn't seen this. Well, actually, I'm sorry. He has seen this application, but he would specifically review the requirements for the septic system under the building permit process when that's submitted.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Through you, Mr.
Yes.
Chairman. So there would be an application, a septic system application that would be brought forward to the building department. And at that time, it would have to be designed by somebody with a BCIN number, a building code identification number, and it would have to meet the requirements of the building code. There are similar lots in that area that have had septic systems designed and approved and put in with a building permit.
And if I may ask a follow-up question, it hasn't been an issue with like flooding in in 2019 where we had the significant flood.
No, we didn't have any complaints about the septic systems backing up or anything. There's quite a distance between the river and where the homes are and where the septic systems are. And there wasn't, some people did sandbag in certain areas of the city, but there wasn't any issues.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions? If not, then the motion, Ian, seconded by Mr. Levasseur. Any further comments? All in favor of the application? Approved. Thank you very much. Thank you, John. Next, we have Z724, 336 Patricia Street, Rhonda Butler. Yes, please, Owen, if you would speak to that, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The applicant, Rhonda Butler, has submitted an application proposing a semi-detached dwelling on her property at 336 Patricia Avenue, which is currently vacant land. The property is currently zoned residential type 1 by the zoning bylaw. The R1 zoning generally only permits up to single detached dwellings, and a minimum of an R2 zoning is required to permit a semi-detached dwelling. The proposed residential type 2 special exception 37 zoning is required to permit a semi-detached dwelling as well as to provide site-specific relief to allow for said building to be constructed with the following reliefs granted, which have been requested to maximize the dwelling unit sizes. And the reliefs are for minimum lot frontage, relief of 0.6 feet from the required 65.6 feet. For minimum rear yard setback, 20 feet is proposed, meaning relief of 5 feet from 25 feet required. For minimum exterior side yard setback, 9 feet is requested, meaning relief of 3 feet from the required 12 feet. And for parking area location on lot, 24 feet of driveway width total is proposed, which means that relief of 4.5 feet from the maximum of 19.5 feet is being requested. All other standard R2 provisions for semi-detached dwellings are met or exceeded, including minimums for lot area, front yard setback, interior side yard setback, lot depth, landscaped open space, and minimum dwelling unit areas. Therefore, the application can be viewed as being in keeping with the intent of the zoning bylaw. The proposed R237 zoning is compatible with the surrounding area, which has an already diverse mixture of residential zonings. To the south of the property, properties in the Patricia Avenue McCrae Street subdivision are all zoned R2 with a mixture of semi-detached dwellings and single detached dwellings integrated seamlessly side by side. At the very southern ends of Patricia Avenue are 2 10-unit row dwellings, 364 Patricia Avenue in an R328 zone and 403 Patricia Avenue in an R342 zone. To the west of the property is Morris Street, which is lined with semi-detached dwellings and row dwellings in R3 zones. So the proposed R237 zoning can be viewed as a gentle transition between the R1 zones to the north and east of the property and the higher density zoning to the south and the west. Regarding parking, the zoning bylaw requires 2 parking spaces per dwelling unit for semi-detached dwellings. So in the case of this application, that puts the total required number at 4. This requirement is met between the driveways and the garages of the proposed building. That stated, the relief of 4.5 feet has been requested to maximize the use of space for the driveways to add 2.25 feet to each driveway to increase the ease of accessibility to the front entrances of the proposed buildings. The property is designated residential under the city's official plan. And again, the city of Pembroke will encourage all forms of residential intensification that creates a supply of new housing units. And this shall be encouraged in the built-up areas of the city where there is sufficient existing or planned infrastructure to accommodate such development. The proposed zoning is strongly in keeping with this directive of the official plan, as the proposed semi-detached dwelling units constructed on existing residential land will contribute to intensifying housing stock in an already built-up area. The official plan also aims to promote efficient and pleasant residential environments, and that neighborhoods shall be maintained to include facilities such as schools, parks, local shopping facilities, community center, etc. And within a 1 kilometer radius of the property, schools are Fellows High School, Champlain Discovery Public School, Our Lady of Lourdes Elementary School, and Highview Public School. For parks, Kinsman Park and Harvey Fraser Nature Park. For commercial amenities, Pembroke Mall. And for healthcare, Pembroke Regional Hospital and Care for Health and Community Services, all within a 1 kilometer radius of the property. The official plan states that all residential development shall be adequately serviced with municipal water and sewer services. The property currently has full water, sanitary, and storm sewer servicing on Patricia Avenue, and the requirement of a building permit to construct the semi-detached dwelling will trigger the approval of the operations department to ensure adequate servicing capacity. The property is located within 150 meters of Bell Street, which is designated by Schedule B of the official plan as a collector road. This provides for vehicular transportation links to the east end of the city via Bell Street and Angus Campbell Drive, as well as to the remainder of the city via Bell Street, McKay Street, and River Road. And the provincial policy statement states that land use patterns within settlement areas shall be based on a range of uses and opportunities for intensification and redevelopment where this can be accommodated. This application promotes intensification by increasing the number of dwelling units permitted on the property and simultaneously increasing the mixture of housing density options. And therefore, this application is consistent with the directives of the current provincial policy statement. And therefore, the planning department is recommending the approval of this zoning bylaw amendment application for 336 Patricia Avenue from a residential type 1 zone to a residential type 2 special exception 37 zone, as the application is in keeping with the intents of the zoning bylaw, the directives of the official plan, and the provincial policy statement.
Thank you, Owen. Were any submissions received regarding this application?
A single informational inquiry was received. No submissions were received.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone here that would like to speak to the application?
The applicant, Rhonda Butler, is present this evening. I don't believe she has anything to add.
Okay, good, thank you. So next is, can we have a motion to approve the application? Seconded by Ed. Any further discussion? All in favor? Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, our next application is 432 Pembroke Street West. Mr. Kasparez, Zach. Yeah. Oh, can we have? Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The applicant, Simon Kasperzak, has submitted a site plan of his property at 432 Pembroke Street West, which includes 2 existing accessory buildings in the form of sheds. Mr. Kasperzak is an Ontario land surveyor with Adam Kasperzak Surveying Limited, whose business operates out of the main building at 432 Pembroke Street West. The zoning bylaw zones the property as Central Commercial Special Exception 8. This C3-8 zoning permits the use of office, which the surveying business meets the definition of, as well as mixed-use building, which the building overall meets the definition of, as residential dwelling units are located above ground floor commercial uses. Regarding the accessory buildings, the zoning bylaw permits up to 2 accessory buildings or structures on a property to a maximum lot coverage of 15% in a central commercial zone. The first accessory building on the submitted site plan is shown as being 288 square feet, while the second accessory building is shown as being only 40 square feet. This brings the total lot coverage up to 328 square feet. This is well below the permissible 2,505.69 square feet that the property would be allowed at 15%. However, regarding the zoning bylaws setback requirements for accessory uses, relief is required for accessory building number 1 from rear lot line not abutting a street in all other zones where a lot line abuts a residential zone. 8 feet of relief is required, which would be relief, 8 feet is required. Relief of 6 feet is being requested for a proposed setback of 2 feet. And for the same accessory building to the interior side lot line, which is on the western side, 4 feet is required, and relief of 2 feet is required for a proposed setback of 2 feet. And for the second accessory building, simply one item of relief, which is to the interior side lot line. 2 feet of relief is being requested for a proposed setback of 2 feet. The standard is 4 feet. In his application regarding the reasoning for the requested relief, Mr. Kasperzak states that there are space constraints with the property. The prescribed setback for accessory structures does not afford sufficient space for maneuvering vehicles, snow plowing, and various other activities on the commercial property. This reduction would allow for efficient use of the property while ensuring the safety of residents and employees, which is consistent with pre-existing activities and uses on both sides for 20 plus years. The requested relief can be viewed as minor in nature and consistent with the character of the neighborhood. Accessory Building 1 is located on the southwestern corner of the property on the edge of its parking area, and across both applicable property lines on the neighboring properties are residential parking areas. Accessory Building 2 is located midway along the eastern property line, and across this property line on the applicable neighboring property is an interior side yard of approximately 17 feet between the property line and the main residential building. As such, all of the requested reliefs can be viewed as being minor in nature and having negligible impact on the neighboring properties. The official plan designates the property as central commercial. And this designation means that this classification of land means the predominant use of land in the areas so designated shall be for the buying and selling of goods and services. Regarding permitted uses, the official plan states that the permitted uses are those commercial uses that serve the city's market area and may include establishments engaged in the buying and selling of goods and retail services, offices and studios, service shops, and public service uses. Lastly, regarding open storage under this designation, the official plan states that no open storage shall be permitted. The long existing use as the office of a service providing business is directly in keeping with the official plan designation, and the permitted accessory buildings assist with maintaining the official plan direction of no open storage on the property. The provincial policy statement states that land use patterns within settlement areas shall be based on a range of uses and opportunities where this can be accommodated. And the existing sheds will continue to support and enhance the property's intended commercial use and can be viewed as being in keeping with the provincial policy statement. And therefore, the planning department is recommending that the committee approve the minor variance application for 432 Pembroke Street West to grant relief from rear lot line and interior side lot line setbacks for 2 accessory buildings in a central commercial special exception 8 zone.
Thank you. And were there any submissions received regarding this application?
An informational inquiry was received from the complainant that triggered the minor variance, that complained about the location of one of the accessory buildings.
I see.
No submission was made, though.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone here that would like to speak to the application? Sir, would you, Mr. Kasperzak, would you?
Yep, thank you, Mr. Chair. So we're filing this application to seek relief from these setbacks, which is in keeping with the nature of the site as it has been for 20 plus years. The sheds themselves are relatively new, but the activity on the property has maintained in a similar manner, snow plowing. There has been a previous shed to the two that are current, which is pretty consistent with the application as we've sought relief from those setbacks. So we're seeking to truly maintain what has been regular use on the property over the past 20 years.
Thank you. Any comments from the membership? Yes. Ed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Sometimes I guess committees of this nature are looked at as being a hindrance to development and that we're too tough. But I think that Mr. Kasperzak and his business has been here for over 20 years. I think we have to recognize, the value that a business such of this nature provides for the economic outlook of the city of Pembroke, not only here, but also the county of Renfrew. So I just wanted to mention that. Thank you.
Sure. Any further comments? Yes, Ian.
Well, nobody appreciates Mr. Kasperzak's business, I think, more than the lawyer that sits on this committee. Weirdly enough, this is actually the first time I'm meeting Simon in person as opposed to over the phone or by email. One question that I did have when I looked at it was the comment: the prescribed setback for accessory structures does not afford sufficient space for maneuvering vehicles, snow plowing, and various other activities. You have a giant parking lot by any comparison to other places in town. I think you have more room than my law office has in terms of parking and maneuvering or whatnot. So I guess my question is, well, why couldn't we find the extra couple feet here and there to not be here?
We have a lot of vehicles, I guess. The parking lot is quite large, but it looks like on most days you couldn't park another vehicle in the lot. So I don't know if more people should carpool to the office but it seems like, the business is growing, which is a good thing. During the COVID years, we hired, I think, 4 additional staff members, which is a positive thing in my view. So with the growth of the business, together with tenants in the building, we have 2 apartments above the office, who I think, maybe before had 1 vehicle between spouses. Now there's 2 vehicles, so that's 4. We find that, you can never have enough parking. So we're really trying to seek relief to these to make sure that the sheds can be within reason to the property lines, and allow for all the maneuverability of vehicles, plowing, all this kind of stuff that is pretty consistent with what has happened before on the property. Maybe just with more densification.
Any further comments? Can I have a motion on this subject? Yes. Seconder. Any more comments? All in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. Past decisions. One.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll begin with from our last committee meeting. And applications were heard for consent to sever as well as 2 minor variances for 604 Weston Street. This committee approved these applications, and the final day of appeal is May 20th. This passed with no appeals received. So these applications, the provisional consent is considered granted and the minor variances are considered final. The next application was a zoning bylaw amendment and official plan amendment for 29 Eddy Crescent, or lot 46 in the LaPointe subdivision. An additional zoning bylaw amendment was heard for 331 Boundary Road from Matt Bim. Both of these sets of applications went to a public meeting of council on May 7th, followed by bylaws being passed by council on May 21st. Their final day of appeal is June 12th, so they are currently still within their 20-day appeal periods.
Thank you very much. Next meeting, Monday, June 24th. Is that satisfactory to everyone? Yes.
I may be absent.
Anybody else? If not, I'd ask for a motion to adjourn. Ian, thank you. Thank you very much, everyone. I think we just need a mover to adjourn, but there's a seconder. All in favor? Okay.